in the midst of all this chaos, some sort of normalcy for them is what's going to be important there.
I am very excited. Today I have with me the one and only Phil Strunk. Hello, good morning, Phil.
Becky, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to see you.
Yeah, I was really excited whenever you offered me this chance.
And I'm wearing my Teach Better 19 shirt,
Love
which
it.
I was on last week with Peace Loan Joseph.
I watched that.
And I was saying that, that's where her and I met, and that's where you and I met. In fact, if I recall correctly, you were one of the first people I met at the conference because you were there the night before it started. And so was I. I was helping set up. And it was you, me, and I believe Jeff Kaplan that all struck up a conversation at the bar, right?
Yeah. So, and it was funny. I had driven up from Virginia, so I got there I got there earlier than I expected because I was expecting snow on the way down or on the way up.
Yep.
And whenever I got to where we were doing our networking event, I was just sitting in the car, trying not to be like the awkward kid that shows up like 5 minutes early while everybody's getting ready. But then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go in. It's fine. And then it was you, it was Ray, and it was Kevin Butler.
Yeah.
And we were just kind of talking shop whenever we were going in. And then after a while, it was just you, Kevin, and me. And then Jeff came over too. And we were able to have lots of good conversations. I loved it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was so much fun, and so much fun because we got to meet so many different people, and then we've stayed connected with those people. So it's been a lot of fun. We have a lot of people joining us this morning. Oh, Jeff Gargis is very excited. He says it's Phil, and Carrie's here. Good morning, Carrie. Briana's here. Good morning, Briana. So how have you been? I mean, I've been following you on social media. I know you do a lot on Instagram. I laugh at some of your Instagram things that you post to your class. I'm like literally there was one thing you posted and I forget exactly what it was, but literally you didn't get a response from anybody. Mm-hmm. And I think you posted again the next day. You're like, okay, so nobody's interested in this.
That was pretty early too. Like whenever quarantine first started, I did these Instagram challenges and I was like, let's be really interdisciplinary. Let's utilize the power of social media. Whatever. And so the first day nobody did it. And so I called them on it. It's what I do in the classroom. And after that I got stuff, but the first day, no.
Well, I was ready to jump in. I was like, oh, I'll participate. This is great. I love challenges.
Why didn't you?
I was trying to rally my own troops over here, Phil.
Do you mean to tell me that you're busy right now? Or?
Yeah. A little bit. And I know you've had some exciting news in your personal life. You and your wife are expecting your first baby.
Yeah, we cannot wait. So November 5th is the due date. And, we were so pumped whenever we got that news. She found out, and then, like in the morning before you go to school, some people drink coffee. I love the smell of coffee, but I can't stand the taste, so I don't drink coffee. So that like first 30 minutes that you're up and you're waiting to get ready for the school day, I'm just a total mess, groggy, not really processing anything. And my wife said, "Hey, Phil, can you go check the oven for me to make sure it's not on? Just we don't want it on while we're not in the house, obviously." And I looked at it and the light was off. I said, "No, it's fine." And she said, "Well, can you open it up for me?" And I opened it up and there was a hamburger roll in there. And I looked at it and I didn't understand. And then all of a sudden,
in the oven, Phil.
Yeah. She goes, "Put it in the oven."
That is adorable. That's so cute. Yeah, but I think that I had similar stories with my husband, especially when I was telling him, that I was same thing. I was trying to surprise him. And he didn't get it. I gave him a bag of like baby things, and I think his response was, "Well, who are we giving this to?" And I'm like, oh, forget it. Then I just broke out the test. I'm like, here, it's for us.
Yep.
So that is amazing news. And I know you said your wife had a little bit of a rocky start, but she's feeling better now. So
the first trimester we're glad is gone.
Yes. Well, and so in the midst of her probably finishing up her first trimester, all of this, remote learning started. And
Yeah.
your wife is a teacher as well, too, right?
Right. She's a first grade teacher.
Oh, so that's got to be this whole process has to be a very tough. I've talked about that with a couple of different people
Yeah.
that just the younger the grade level, I feel like almost the harder it is.
Hmm.
And tell everybody what you teach and where you teach.
Yeah. So I teach in Clark County, Virginia, which is in the Shenandoah Valley, but it's the northern part of Virginia. I teach sixth and seventh grade U.S. History 1 and 2. I also teach. I'm one of the 3 teachers that teach our gifted program as well.
Okay. All right. And what has remote learning looked like for you?
Yeah, it's been very different than what I had anticipated. I think a lot of us embrace this whole remote learning, or a lot of us thought we were going to embrace it one way, a lot of really rigorous engagement and stuff. And certainly that should be the goal. We want to make sure our kids are actively learning and actively engaged. But, and I assume my county is not the only one where there's a good number of people who don't have access to the internet. And
Yeah.
so if you don't have access to Wi Fi, if you don't have any access to a cable in, you know, your education, the equity there is just a whole different ballpark. So we've been releasing modules every other week and have 5 assignments in there too. We run off an A day, B day schedule, so we wanted to try to honor that throughout this as well. Just in the midst of all this chaos, some sort of normalcy for them is what's going to be important there. And then after they finish it, we're scoring it, but we're not doing A, B, C, D, F. We're doing pass or incomplete, just to make sure that we can communicate to students what the expectations are.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have found it interesting just talking to different educators and following different educators on Twitter and other social media
Hmm.
to see what different states are doing, and then within different states, I'm in New Jersey, and just different districts in New Jersey are doing things very differently. So it's that's been interesting. And as I told you, we literally just found out last week
Yeah.
that we're officially not going back into the classroom this year. I think they were still holding out hope that we'd be able to go in. We go late here in New Jersey, as many people have heard
Hmm.
me say. So we go to the end of June, most districts. And so they were holding out hope maybe we'd be able to go in the last 2 weeks. And then we finally got word last week that that's not going to happen. So actually today, and I know you and I had a conversation, you're
Hmm.
like, you're just going in today? I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, today is
It's
my first
crazy.
day I'm going in. And it's also the last day I'll be going in. So they're giving us a few hours in the afternoon to, pack up as you would for summer. So now you've already been into your classroom
Hmm.
and done all that? Okay.
Yeah, it's incredibly eerie walking in there too. Like the day I went in, I just signed up the first day to go in because I wanted to. I actually had some stuff here that I need to drop off in my room more so
Yeah.
than take out.
Yeah.
But it was just the assistant principal and me in the entire school building. It was weird.
It is kind of, yeah, they're only letting in, so we're in groups. We've been assigned to a group, and I think there's
Mhm.
maybe 8 people at a time that are allowed in the building, and then the principal.
Yeah.
And to your point, I try to do a lot of STEM activities in my
Mhm.
classroom, and I am a math and science teacher. And so I've saved a bunch of recycling. I mean, all those toilet paper tubes, I've had people saving them for me, and paper towels.
That
So
is
people are
awesome.
just dropping this stuff off. So I have literally like this 2 giant boxes of these things. And, I'm like, well, I'm still going to be collecting them over the summer. So I'm probably the only person that, to your point, is bringing stuff in, like
Right.
bringing in, my recyclables.
So are you like
Just to
making
use them.
telescopes with those, or is there another project there for them?
So let me tell you something. We did. This feels like it was an eternity ago because of everything that's happened. But we did. I did a goalpost challenge with them for the Super Bowl,
Oh.
and now my students knew that we had this big supply of paper towel and toilet paper rolls. So I actually made it more of a challenge, and I said you can only use one paper towel roll, because I
Oh,
knew that all that they would do was just take all of them and put them together and make a goalpost. So that forced them to use other materials.
that's
So
clever. I
yeah,
like
so
that.
we do a lot. Believe it or not, they have a ton of uses. We have a beautiful new STEAM lab in our building that,
Amazing.
ironically, that was just done for this year. So the kids kind of got a little gypped out of that this year because we did spend a decent amount of time in there, but it's brand new. So,
Mhm.
It'll stay a little bit newer, a little bit longer. That's for sure,
Oh, yeah.
considering it hasn't been used. We've had a bunch of other people joining us. Oh, Jeff Kaplan joined in. Hello, Jeff Kaplan.
Jeff.
Dave Schmidu is here. Hello, Dave.
Hey.
Alex, good morning. Andrea, Joe Gonzalez, Holly Stewart, and Brianne Fennel. Good morning, everybody. How are you guys doing?
I will give immense kudos to these people also for being here so early in a morning as well.
Yes.
Great.
For you and I, it's not too bad, right? It's 8:00 in the morning.
Right. And like my office hours don't start till 9. So I've been taking full advantage of that extra hour, or I guess extra 2 hours of sleep that I get now.
Well, I am going to be honest. It's so funny you say that, because same with me. I've definitely been sleeping later, although my own children are getting up. So that's kind of, I have to get everybody kind of moving in the morning, not just myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been sleeping a little bit later and enjoying that. So when the discussion came up that we might actually have to go back to our regular school hours at the end of June, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to put on real clothes and get up at the regular time. What is this crazy talk?
These expectations are unreasonable.
Right. You want me to go into my job when I usually go into my job? So I agree with you. And then we have Shannon, who joined. She said, oh my goodness, I have a whole closet filled with toilet paper tubes. Exactly. I just use them for teaching plant structures. Oh, that's a good one. And planting seeds, having them also be biodegradable. I like that because definitely my one of the big things I've been teaching, I focused on the Sustainable Development Goals this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've talked a lot about sustainability, and I got the kids involved in, a couple of different projects and stuff like that. So that would be kind of a perfect way to. So thank you for the idea. See, that's what I love about the daily drop-ins and about this group in general, is that you get so many, so many good ideas and things to brainstorm.
So many people want to teach better, right?
Yeah, so you can teach better. Exactly, Phil. So Phil, how have you found, just in general, how has it been working, like with your colleagues, and have in terms of sharing resources and things like that? I mean, has that been? Have you found that for yourself?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate. My history department is awesome. We still meet every other week, and anytime anybody needs things, and this was even before the quarantine, but it becomes even more evident in these sort of crises. Constantly sharing and sending stuff out to each other, and we're bouncing ideas back and forth, and really across the building, we start to see I've seen a lot of teachers trying different things, and I think one of the big parts of this has been the constant pushback against the idea of, I don't have to be that other teacher. What they are doing in their room is awesome, or what they're doing in their virtual classroom is awesome, but I don't have to compare myself to the point of feeling this constant sense of inadequacy. I can embrace what I'm doing and embrace what the other teachers are doing as well. And so I think as people are finding that balance more and more, I think it's really helping us as we walk through all of this stuff right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the very beginning, it was literally survival mode, as as a lot of people have referred to it as, and it still is.
Right.
But in the very beginning, that was it. It was like you were just trying to figure out what worked for you, what worked for your students, and well, you'll see. It's like parenting, Phil. What works for one person is not going to work for the other. A lot of it depends on the kids. So, the same can be said of teaching. And whether you're a teacher or a parent, you do tend to compare yourself to other people. And, I think you're right. That was kind of an underlying issue, which has been discussed before all this. So now that most teachers are kind of out of the day-to-day survival mode, now, yes, that has come back, but in a very different way, because now you're seeing what people are doing remotely. It's like, oh, maybe I should be doing it. Oh, maybe I should be.
Yeah. And, I had the opportunity to do a virtual spotlight or a virtual keynote for a conference down here in Virginia. And in it, I basically asked, well, not basically, I asked this question: what do you like on your pizza? I think we all have different preferences. I really like bacon. I like pepperoni. I like onions on it. I like Parmesan cheese. If I'm feeling really dangerous, I'll throw some blue cheese on there with my mozzarella. And that's the pizza that works great for me. And after I take the first bite of it, I'm like, yes, this is awesome. I'm glad I picked my own pizza. My
Yeah.
wife, she puts these weird green things on them. I think they're called vegetables. Um, yeah, and that pizza is great for her, but I wouldn't want it. It
Yeah.
is entirely possible for us to go somewhere like a Mon Pizza, for us to both get our own pizzas, like our own small personal pizzas or whatever, eat them, and not feel like, oh, I'm lesser because I didn't get their version of it. So
Yeah.
it should be the same way. Ideally, in education, we should be looking at things not from a perspective of, man, this isn't working. Like I'm not as good, because quite frankly, for your students, you are enough. You're that gatekeeper of intentional instructional strategies that they are relying on subconsciously to figure out, and they're expecting you to set them up for a long-term pathway of success.
That's true. And we talked about this too, you and I, that you are not allowed, your district is not allowing you to do any live videos with the
Mhm.
students. So you're recording a lot and posting that. I do a combination of recorded videos and I do live sessions. And it's funny you should mention that, because I do find that I'm getting, a couple of students, and I just feel they don't necessarily, like, I have certain sessions, I do fun class meetings, and then I'll do certain sessions that are just dedicated to math instruction.
Yeah.
And I find that some of the kids don't necessarily have a question, and they don't necessarily want to participate fully, but they just kind of want to see and connect with other people besides the people that are currently in their household,
Right.
which I
And
do
you know, like,
too. Trust me.
yeah. And like on my Friday evenings, I host a Gim Kick game, and I'll go live on my Instagram for students to like jump into the live stream, and I'm just trying to provide them some other outlet and give them
Yeah.
something to look forward to during the week.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this huge thing, but it's just 15 minutes on a Friday evening where we're able to chat. Well, we're able to chat in games. So they'll type in messages, and I'll respond to them. Or I've started stealing this from my wife. First grade teachers are brilliant people. The
They
question
are.
of the day, I steal that. Yesterday it was, what's your favorite place to go get pizza? And students are very passionate about where they go get their pizza. Jeff Kubiak is also passionate about where he gets his pizza because it's his house. He said.
That's fun. And you get a lot of those, and some of them are easy to implement.
Right.
So, like you said, like, you're stealing from your wife, but
Mhm.
I could steal from your wife too. I could go
Do
out and
it.
look at what you're doing and stuff like that. So, and sometimes I find that ideas just kind of evolve. I last week was looking, and there was an article on Newsella, and it was about, it was a little bit old. I think it was from last year, but it was about the Netflix documentary Our Planet, which, to be honest with you, I had never heard of. And it talked about, the documentary and how it
Mhm.
came to be. And my students were interested in studying animal habitats. And so I sat down with my own kids and watched the first episode, which it turned out they since had made other episodes.
Okay.
So I watched the first episode. I encouraged my students. I said, if you have, um, Netflix, and you have access to this, I said, see if you can watch it. I said, and we'll have a discussion about it. We'll be like movie reviewers, and
Perfect.
we'll get some popcorn or whatever. And so they were all into this idea, and my two of my own children were watching it with me. And then we had a Zoom call, and we were talking about, and I said, even if you haven't watched the show, you can still discuss. Like, we'll explain to you what it was about and things like that. And then now it's become this thing, and they're like, well, can we watch the second episode this week? And I'm like, yeah, let's all watch the second
I
episode
love
this
that.
week and stuff. So it's actually, I tell you, it's the cinematography of this is fascinating, this show.
Yeah.
um it's it's definitely, it's I w- there it's not graphic at all in terms of, prey and predators and things like that, but there's a
Mhm.
couple of scenes, like, for probably little kids, it might be really scary. um but it is a fascinating show. And so, like, things like that, they just kind of evolve. It's
Right.
not something that was planned, but it's engaging for them. And so that's really what the goal of a lot of this remote learning is just to keep them talking, to keep them engaged.
Yeah, and it's entirely possible for us to do the things that we're doing and seeing other educators doing things without this whole, why am I not doing this? Oh, I feel so inadequate. No, like that's not the way that you should be feeling right now. The whole point of this is just, this is what works for our kids in our circumstances.
Yeah.
Other teachers have different circumstances and different students. And so they're going to do what works for them. And that's okay. That's awesome because that's what those kids need.
Right, right. Like I said, it was a balancing act before, and I'm sure what I found, which I'm sure you would agree with this too, is there's so many different, and you're a big tech guy because I know that you did, one of your sessions that you did at Teach Better 19 was all about different kind of tools and technology, and so I'll ask you in a minute, what some of your favorites are, but I found that it became in the very beginning of this too. That was a very overwhelming part for me personally. Was that all of these platforms now were opening up to everybody for free, which is phenomenal. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, kudos to them. But it was almost like too much information
Mhm.
for my brain. It was like, well, try this and you can try this and this is free. And I'm like, whoa, and so it's
And
that
we're
in and
adults.
of itself, it's like all, everybody means well. But it's almost like it's like information overload, honestly. You
Yeah.
need time to be able to play with that. And when you're trying to balance all these other things, including meeting the needs of your students at the time, you don't necessarily have the time. Like I hope this summer to look into more of the
Yeah.
different tools. So Phil, tell us, what are your favorite kind of tools that you're using now?
So I feel like I should start by saying, I start every year, believe it or not, what students don't want to learn are the Reconstruction amendments and all this other big, heavy history content the first day of school or the second day of school. So I start the year out a little differently. I have a hyperdoc that I developed called Apps Day because whenever we went one-to-one based off Harry Wong and the emphasis of routines, I developed this hyperdoc to teach them fundamental ed tech routines in my class. And so I have 4 apps that I really ask my students to get familiar with, and they have helped me out. I built this and I trained them in these apps with the hope that whenever we hit different units, that they would be fine as long as I was there, just to be like a little guide, but not like the full. All right, let's learn how to use these apps. But what I'm finding is that teaching them the stuff at the beginning of the year has helped out big time during quarantine because I have them working with apps like Flipgrid, Powtoon, Screencastify, and Canva. Or rather, those are the 4. Those are my 4 big ones as well. Really helpful for enhancing student voice, student creativity, and innovation. And so I'm able to assign things like, hey, once you finished watching this video, I want you to create a Canva about a reason why people would want to move out west. Or Mr. Strunk, I'm having a hard time with such and such. Oh, okay. Can you send me a screencast of whatever it is that's the issue, and I'll see if I can walk you through it. And they're able to send that to me too. So yeah, they've been very helpful. I'm very proud of how well the students have embraced it and worked through it.
I agree with you, and it's that's the other thing that becomes complicated is how many new things do you want to introduce in this setting, because it ends up, especially for you who can't connect with students via video live.
Hmm.
So if you start to introduce new things now, it opens up to 5,000 questions. Well, I can't do this. And how do you do that? And if you can't connect with them live to answer those questions, that makes
Right.
it very complicated. One of the things, and I think I've talked about this, at this point, I've talked about this multiple times, so I'm sure people have heard this, but, I got turned on to Seesaw, and
Yes.
Ray Hewart was a big one because she was always talking about Seesaw, and I had heard about it, and then my own daughter's teacher started using Seesaw earlier in the year, and so
Mhm.
I was looking at it from a parent perspective, which is huge. And
Yeah,
this will be you too, Phil, someday when baby struck sold
that's
to that.
right. I still have a few years before that
Have
happens.
a few
I
years.
still have plenty of diapers to change before then, I think.
um, and so I was looking at it and I was like, this is really neat. Like I was getting to see her work and her answer questions on a video or create a drawing or whatever. And I said, this is pretty cool. So I started to look into it more from a teacher perspective. And again, this was kind of right after the first of the year, before quarantine. And I was really impressed with all of the different options that the students had to show their work. And so I can't speak highly enough of it. And I had gotten the students on, and so they had logged on and we had played around with it a little bit.
Awesome.
And they really liked it too. I cannot tell you what a godsend that has been. Now that we are in quarantine, because we still do not everything, but we do a lot of stuff on Seesaw, and
Right.
kids are used to it, and so that it's interesting because now nobody knows what the fall is going to look like at this point in terms of returning to school. But I think that everybody has gotten the impression like, okay, you're going to have to start a lot earlier, to your point, with teaching them these things and getting them familiar with the tools that you're going to go to tools,
Hmm.
so that as the year progresses and God forbid we find ourselves in this situation
Hmm.
longer term, that they're familiar with what all those tools.
Yeah, I like Seesaw too because my wife is very talented at it, and you know I am so impressed by all the options that students have within that too, and how it really does function well, really as an LMS to a great degree. Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm
Yeah.
glad
So
it's working for you.
couple of people have joined us, and other people have made comments. So Andrea from the Teach Better team is here with her baby. So Phil, you can contact her for
Yeah, I was gonna say any
parenting
baby
advice.
advice I will
Luke
take.
is, yeah, I think Luke is what, maybe 9 or 10 months old. Andrea, right? He was born at the end of August.
That's awesome.
Carrie LaRue says less is more until it was for teachers. I finally told admin I wasn't doing well with the overwhelming number of emails. I agree with you. I agree with you. All good intentions, but
Hmm.
it does because you're also getting, emails from parents and from students and things like that. So Adam actually does, when you mentioned your game night, Adam does, I know, a family game night. In fact, I think it's on
Oh, that's
Thursday, either
awesome.
Thursday or Friday nights, that he does like a Kahoot family game night.
That's
Adam
awesome.
says, I'm concerned what happens to these free platforms next school year. That I've thought about that too, Adam. Will they go back to being paid services and schools will need to change again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of people that I know who work for a couple of different platforms, and that's certainly a concern of theirs. They realize that this was definitely necessary to do at this point in time, but some of them have furloughed employees because obviously they're in it to make money too, and
Hmm?
how long can they sustain that? Chad is here, so good morning, Chad.
God.
Um, Alex says, jumping to the pizza metaphor. Yeah, I'm noticing a theme with this here, Phil. In fact, let me just comment on the fact that I love your background. It almost reminds me like you're in like a brick oven pizza place,
There you go.
right?
Mamma
I do.
mia.
I love it. I love the background. But Alex says, jumping to the pizza metaphor, late to observe that I love that all of our pizzas can be different. Oh, he likes that. Yeah, while having the same fundamental common traits
Right.
that make them this strange concept we call pizza. That is true. And now I'm hungry. Thank you. I haven't had breakfast yet. So now
Hey,
after this, you know where I'm headed.
I'm here to help.
Brianne says Flipgrid has been amazing for my second graders. It was a new one for me. Yes, my daughter, who's also in second grade, uses Flipgrid quite a bit. Although I had to kind of put a little kibosh because I realized she didn't know how to delete videos, and so she would record a video and
Ooh.
not be happy with it. So she would re-record, and then the next thing you know, the Flipgrid was Sarah Thal, like 15 videos posted from Sarah Thal, and she goes, "Well, you can't erase them." I'm like, "Oh no, I can." And
Oh,
so I had to go in
Sarah.
and delete them. Mark Horner is here. Good morning, Mark. He said, Phil, thanks for that hyperdoc. I used it this year. Helped so much. Thanks for sharing.
Good. Glad it worked.
um, and let's see what else we have. Holly here. She says, that was a concern of mine. We were given all of these resources as teachers, but did not have time to teach them to the students before we started e-learning. Yeah, that's and that continues to be a concern, as we said, moving forward. And I think that that's everyone is anxious about what the fall is. We're planners, right? We're
Yeah.
teachers, so we're planners.
Mhm.
So it is a little frightening to think of what I remember when this all first started. Someone mentioned to me, and this was when we were shut down for 2 weeks at that point. I
Mhm.
was like, okay, 2 weeks, and someone mentioned to me, oh my God, can you imagine if we have to start this way in the fall? And at the time, I was like, what? That didn't even dawn on
Yeah.
me. I was like, start this way in the fall, And now as time is going on, it's like, oh, start this way in the fall.
Yeah. And like this spring, especially, there was not much snow in Virginia this year. And
No,
I
here
think
either.
yeah, or really mostly anywhere, but I think we all get to that point around the third quarter where we just get it's that new level of teacher tired, as they talk about online and on memes. But I was just so exhausted. I'm like, I could really use a couple days, catch up on grading, do some lesson planning and this and this. So whenever they first announced it, and really COVID had not grown to what it is today, I was like, all right, well, at least I can use this time. It'll be an opportunity to refresh myself, get all this stuff caught up on. And then as it started to progress more and more, like I cannot wait to get back into a classroom. I think that's where we all are, where most of us are at this point, where this is just so abnormal, and it's such a tough work-life balance too. I mean, I put a tweet out yesterday about, is anybody else feeling exhausted almost every day? Because I wake up, I do my office hours, and that knocks out most of my energy. I'll go out after lunch and take like an hour-long drive through the countryside. That's a nice part about living in rural Virginia, is that you got a lot of countryside. But then I come home, hang out a little bit, eat some dinner, and my wife and I will hang out, watch a new Harry Potter movie because she's reading the series for the first time, and then go to bed. And it's just a constant awake, work, try to recover, go to bed, awake, work, try to recover a bit, go to bed. It's exhausting.
Yeah, I had our school counselor on a few weeks ago, and that was one of her statements to me. And then I had her come on and talk about it, which was, as this situation progressed and the longer we were in remote learning, it was going to take a toll emotionally and physically on both teachers and students, and that wasn't something that should be, overlooked or downplayed,
Yeah.
for sure. So I agree with you. Jeff Kaplan says, "Congrats
Thanks,
on
Jeff.
on the upcoming baby." Adam says, "Phil, your Instagram stories are a great connection tool. Awesome to see."
Thanks, man.
Oh, baby Luke is almost 9 months old. Joe Gonzalez says, "I'm a broken record, but next year I need to teach my students how to use our LMS efficiently." Yeah. I agree with you there too, because we still get students who are turning in blank documents, or
Sometimes I wonder if they just
not
do that
knowing
to
how to
think we won't
attach
look.
things. Yeah. Brian, good morning, Brian. He says, "Having a home base where everyone can meet for class materials, etc., is important. I use Schoology." Yes,
Nice.
I've heard good things about Schoology. We don't use Schoology, but I have heard good things about them.
Uh-huh.
Jason, I love Seesaw, and so do my kiddos. I'm so glad that I implement it in the classroom before remote teaching. That's the same exact way that I feel. So Mark says, so he says, "I'm using it for AP3 in my psychology class. It's awesome." Okay. Oh, Adam, you said I'll never ask for a snow day again. So that was one thing I posted on Facebook. That was, I was the same way, Phil. I was like, oh, God, because you're right. Usually you get those kind of I call them bonus days. Although I think with all of this, those bonus days are kind of gone, right?
Yeah,
But
no, now
even
it's
this day that you can just sleep in a little,
right.
or do work in your pajama bottoms, is a win. And so that was my thing when this whole thing started. I posted on Facebook and I said, I'm like, I will, all I wanted was one day.
Yeah, exactly.
Be careful what you wish for.
Uh-huh. And I mean, yeah.
Um,
I love snow days, and I love them mainly because as a Pennsylvania boy native and moving down to Virginia, we don't get as many. But it's that unexpected day off, and it's just you go to bed, you wake up, and then all of a sudden there's all this white stuff on the ground, and you get to go outside, make snowballs, throw them at your wife. Oh, okay, no, she's still asleep, so I can say that. But in this case, we went to sleep, we woke up, and there was no white stuff on the ground. There was just this fear of this illness passing through. So it's a totally different ballpark.
Well, and there's a lot of, students and parents and teachers who, are having real anxiety issues with the
Right.
whole situation as well. And so, that's another, factor that a lot of people, they kind of discuss it, but they're not, maybe discussing it as much as, we talk about equity issues and things like that, but that's a whole other element, that kind of emotional toll. Candace Miller, good morning, Candace. She makes a good point. She said, "Computer work is so different than in-person work.
Yeah.
My shoulders and neck hurt from being on a laptop a lot more." No, that's the same as me. And you're kind of sitting in this chair. I mean, I try to make, conscientious efforts every day to get up and get outside and go for a walk, however short it is, because as teachers, we're so used to moving and kind of being in motion most of the day. So that in and of itself has been, an adjustment. Now, I'm not going to lie. I like the fact that I can drink water whenever I want. I don't have to plan my bathroom breaks. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that stuff has been great. But you do have to kind of get out there. It does. I've actually thought about getting a better chair for myself so that, I could,
Like
so
one of
it
those
doesn't.
medicine ball chairs that, good lumbar support or whatever that
Yeah,
Dad
no,
had in
but
the office.
seriously, because my dining room chair is not cutting it anymore.
Yeah, yeah. That's fantastic.
Now, Phil, you do a chat,
Yeah.
and obviously the Teach Better team. There's Mastery Chat tonight
Hmm.
that is coming up. I happen to be hosting Mastery Chat. I said this to Jeff and to Ray earlier in the week. I'm like, I don't know how I end up doing this stuff, but you get like one big dose of Becky all in one day. So I'm in the daily drop in today. And then, I was just scheduling things at different times and then realized this week, I'm like, oh, I have Phil in the morning and then I'm hosting Mastery Chat tonight. So I hope that you folks will join us on Twitter because the discussion is all about balancing work and family.
Hmm.
And, and family doesn't necessarily mean that you have children. I mean, family is your spouse. It's it could be if you have parents living with you or other relatives living with you. So family is a pretty broad term. So that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. You have a chat that starts, I believe, right after Mastery Chat,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah. So what's your topic tonight, Phil?
Oh, so you know how as a teacher sometimes you plan or you have these great plans and all of a sudden you have to call an audible at the last second. I'm at this point right now in my chat where usually I'm really good at getting the questions out beforehand, but I was not this week. So
Oh, okay. So it's a surprise.
so TBD is what the topic for tonight is.
Like it's like a surprise topping on your pizza. Let's put it
Yeah,
that way. You
exactly.
don't know
There
what's
you go.
coming out of the oven.
It's the bonus pepperoni at the end, But yeah, I host a chat. It's called Whale Chat, and we meet at 9 o'clock every Thursday night. And our big thing is reflection. Celebrating our wins because I think as teachers and as recovering perfectionists, we're constantly beating ourselves up over things whenever we need to also recognize that there's things that we do and there's things that we do really well. And we got to celebrate these wins. We have to stop and smell the roses because if we don't, we're going to burn ourselves out. We're not going to be able to see any sort of long-term success because we're always going to be looking at what goes wrong. But it's also important to look at our growth points, look at our losses, but instead of seeing them as a finite point, as the final destination, it's important for us to see them as a stepping stone to future wins in the long term. And then I always try to make sure that we include some sort of question about self-care, about how you're going to take care of yourself over the weekend or something that you really enjoy, just to kind of spark that and remember that through this all. And I'm so appreciative that my superintendent communicated this whenever this whole quarantine started too, of your health matters. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. So that's what we'll be looking at tonight.
Yeah, no, that'll be awesome, and that's literally right after Mastery Chat. So Mastery Chat is
Mhm.
at 8 Eastern time, and then it's hashtag
LED.
WALED, right? WA wins and losses ed chat, right?
Yep.
WALED chat, and that is right after. So it's at 9 Eastern time.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a half hour. Holly says she's definitely staying more hydrated these days. Me too, and that's one way that I've been wanting to take better care of myself. So,
Yeah.
oh, and Brienne got a new chair. So good for you. I
All these
definitely
big
have to look into
changes.
that. And now, that's so the scary thing about being home is that I'm trying to monitor my Amazon purchases, but I'm like, oh, I need a new chair. Let's go on Amazon.
Yeah.
Let's see
Well,
what they
when like
have.
right now, LB and I, like the day after we found out that she was pregnant, we started putting together a baby registry, not to like share out or anything like that, but just to like see what sort of fun stuff's out there. It is so hard to not want to buy every single thing on that registry right now. It's just
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as if the UPS drivers and the FedEx drivers aren't working hard enough. Now everybody's doing all these online purchases. Some of
Mhm.
which are not necessary. In your case, they're necessary. In my case, they're probably
I
not
mean, they're not
necessary.
necessary till November, so
Well, and that's hard too because you can't get into the stores to
right.
really see anything. So, I'm sure that's tough. Brian says, Adam, our middle school principal was sad. Nobody called this semester to ask if we were having a snow day. I know everybody seems to have the same thought on the snow day. Oh, Brienne says we should have a hashtag Queen Becky t-shirt. Oh, no, well, thank you. But no, I'll make my family wear that. No, I'll make those up and have my family,
Your
wear
Majesty.
that. Yeah. The daily drop-in, now we've been running these since right after quarantine started. You can catch them on YouTube. You can catch replays on YouTube. They're also in podcasts, which I know you said you were going to check out, Phil. That's what you were looking into them, the podcast version.
I actually ended up watching them on YouTube so I could see the faces too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've actually found that in terms of podcasting, it's good when I'm trying to go out for these walks. I'm trying to multitask here. So I'll pull up a podcast while I'm doing a quick walk. And it's a great way to just kind of like decompress, get some PD in. So that's just a little trick that I've been doing. But anyway, the daily drop-ins are going to be running through the end of next week. So they are ending on May 22nd. But right now we've been running them Monday through Friday, and somebody will be popping in, obviously, with a guest tomorrow morning and then next week, and that'll be it. But I'm so glad that we were able to reconnect and talk pizza and all that good stuff. It's great to see you. I wish you very well in wrapping up your school year. When do you wrap up your school year?
We finished June 5th, so that's another difference because, like in Pennsylvania, we were to the middle or end of June too, not down here.
I'm a little jealous of that. I am, but you
should be.
You start earlier too, so it all kind of evens out in the end. But in this remote learning scenario, I'm definitely more jealous than usual of the people who are ending earlier, because I'll be going till June 22nd. And that's because I will say that's because we had no snow days. Yeah. So the snow days that were kind of built into our calendar have been taken off and things. So, but like I said, it was great to connect with you. Good to see everybody on here. Thank you for joining us this morning. We know that some people are joining in early, and if you can, stay tuned tonight for Mastery Chat on Twitter. We'd love you to join in the discussion, and then I call it wall-ed chat right afterwards. And Phil, hopefully you will be in Mastery Chat, and you can, tell people to head on over to your chat afterwards. So it was great to have you. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for joining in. Take care.